There are no secrets on a soundstage. They'll find out about this.
I think we just knew that was our last year.
It didn't really hit me emotionally until we were all done and we were all pounding champagne, looking around going, okay, this is all going to be torn down tomorrow.
I felt like somebody had died.
We have a very unusual story that will stand out as being a real oddity.
I'm going.
We were like the ugly stepchildren. How are we going to get rid of them? Ready to go. It's really important to give the actors a farewell, too.
At the end of the day, it's just television.
What makes a good farewell episode?
That's a hard question to answer. Is this a quiz?
You would need a good enough bit of schmaltz.
I treasure you people.
It's the closure moment that you're waiting for.
Leave them wanting more, but satisfied with what they've just seen.
Give them the best jokes in that episode.
Diarrhea, cha-cha-cha.
You have to find the emotion in the character.
And really want the best for them as if they were real people.
The best farewell episodes recognize the fact that we don't really want to say goodbye to these people.
If the characters are lovable, it's hard saying goodbye to them.
Goodbye, house.
Well, so long.
See ya.
We care about them and start to care about them the same way we do about family.
I'm not a fan of farewell episodes unless it's farewell to a lousy show, and then you wouldn't want to watch it anyway.
Damn it, everything on TV sucks.
We have a very deep connection with our favorite TV shows, and we want them to put a little button on the end of it.
God bless you, and you may now flip.
I'd just like to say, so long.
We got to the line where Lou says, I treasure you people, and he said it, and everybody on the stage went, oh my God.
I treasure you people.
We were crying, the cast was crying. I mean, it's just so emotional.
Over the course of 25, 30 years of sitcoms, you know, how many individual moments do you really remember? But I will always remember the group hug, and then they all go over to get the Kleenex.
I think we all need some Kleenex.
There's some on Mary's desk.
Somebody said, how are we going to get over there? And they all went together, and we saw it.
It's written in that Mary went, and then we
That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then, I guess it was Jay.
To be honest with you, I don't remember whether it was my idea or somebody in the groups, or I just said, go over and get the Kleenex, and it all happened.
It wasn't like afterwards, you know, gee, that really worked. The minute it happened, it was electric.
There's no way of, they'll find out about this.
Keeping a secret like the Newhart Show secret, it was just a major moment in, I think, TV comedy history.
The final episode never was in a script form, and that part of it, because we knew the tabloids would get a hold of it. There was kind of a little man on my shoulder that said, I think now's the time.
I hadn't even thought that there would be an 8th year.
I always wanted to go off a year too early than a year too late.
It was such a funny script. It was so clever and so wacky. The Japanese come to town and start buying up all the land.
This is one town you cannot buy.
I'll give you $1 million for each home.
Bring on the freaking bulldozer.
I remember being backstage before the final time. And we always said good show to each other and got in a little clump, the 5 of us. And I said, just remember that no 5 people have ever had as much fun as we've had, ever. And Bob kept saying, okay, let's just go out. Let's just go out. He was too worried about getting emotional before the show.
Honey. The idea for the final episode was my wife's. I said, I think this is going to be the final year of the show. And she said, if it's a final year, you ought to end it in a dream sequence.
Hey, wake up, you won't believe the dream I just had.
I went to Mark and gave them the idea, and then they I said, here's what I think the final episode should be, and then they fleshed it out.
He said that it would all be a dream and I'd wake up with Suzanne.
All right, Bob. What is it? Well, I was an innkeeper in this crazy little town in Vermont. I'm happy for you.
She might have said at some point earlier, wouldn't it be funny if blah, 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 but we never called her on the phone and asked her how we should end the series.
Nothing made sense in this place. I mean, the maid was an heiress. Her husband talked in alliteration. The handyman kept missing the point of things. And then there were these 3 woodsmen, but only one of them talked.
The idea of using Suzanne Plachette at the end was something we were considering early on.
I was so happy when they came up with this idea because I knew that it was everything people would want.
I'm glad that we went the way we went with it.
That settles it. No more Japanese food before you go to bed.
We wanted to keep this a big secret that she was even going to be on the episode. So we snuck her onto the lot under an assumed name and put her in a trailer way at the back lot and then brought Bob over to her, and they rehearsed in a trailer.
To bring back the old show and have Suzanne Plachette in bed is just genius. Genius.
They took something that could have been a gimmick and just made it so graceful and so classic.
And I was married to this beautiful blonde. Go back to sleep, Bob. Good night, Ellen.
We didn't want to end our show on a kind of moment. We wanted to end really big.
What do you mean, beautiful blonde?
So there's a moment where Bob turns to Emily and says,
Go to sleep, Emily. You know, you really should wear more sweaters.
I don't think we knew the impact that the final episode of Newhart was going to have. We just thought it was a really good ending to a wonderful series.
Anyway, they're just people who make you feel less alone and really loved. And that's what you've done for me.
The only direction I gave Mary was I said, try to hold tears back as long as possible.
Thank you for being my family.
And I walked around and I looked at Mary and she was doing the speech, and all of a sudden I started to see the tears welling up in her eyes. She wasn't crying yet, but the tears were starting, and I started crying.
Now for the hard part. How do we leave this room?
We went to the table to read this last script, and we didn't have the last scene. I don't know whether it was because we didn't have it yet or that we didn't want to write it yet.
Last night, as I lay awake in my bed, I wondered, how do I tell these dear friends and colleagues how I feel about them?
We wanted Ted to say something on the air about them leaving.
Well, I finally got an idea up here.
He was groping for something to say how he felt, and he grabs...
It's a long way to Tipperary. A long way to go.
That came back as the way to get him out.
Remember what Ted said?
What is that, Lou?
It's a long way to Tipperary. It's a long way to go.
Saying goodbye is often about turning your back on the past and moving into the future. So many TV shows have had classic endings in which the characters look back at the place we've known them in. We go to black and we all move on.
It's a long way to Tipperary.
She has to turn the lights out. And if you know anything about television, you know that when you push a switch, the lights don't go out. There's a guy up on a lighting board who has to throw a big thing that turns the lights out. And the guy was apparently crying and forgot to do it. And the lights stayed on. And we had to go back and shoot it twice.
Mary Tyler Moore flicking off the light in her last episode, which was a moment so fantastic that Three's Company paid tribute to it in their last episode.
The audience was kind of afraid to laugh a little bit on that last show. It really wasn't an ending show. At the same time that you're saying goodbye to someone, in the next breath, you're saying hello to new people. I think it was hard for the audience, too. I remember they didn't seem to, really understand what happened to us until we all took our bow. Because the bow seemed to be more poignant
than the actual show.